Now, from Wish TV, your local news source, this is All Indiana Politics.
And thank you for joining us for All Indiana Politics on this Thanksgiving weekend. And we start today with politics and the coronavirus. Republican state lawmaker Christy Stutzman says that she's quitting the legislature because of the governor's new coronavirus restrictions. In her post on Facebook, Stutzman says that she will resign effective December 14th to focus on family and to salvage the family business. Now, she went on to say, with the recent round of new mandatory COVID-related restrictions issued by the governor, with no input or approval from the members of the General Assembly, their businesses and family have been set back further, and that she will be required to devote even more attention to helping our business survive into next year.
Walk us through how you came up with this decision and why it was so important that you decided to step away from your political role.
Yeah, it's a great honor to serve, and it has been. I've really taken it very seriously and I've really enjoyed being a voice for Elkhart County down at the State House, and we have several businesses, actually, my husband and I, and that we manage and run and things like that. But this year has really set us back. We bought the property at the Barns at Napanee right at the beginning of the year, and there's really has not been much help or support for newly purchased businesses as they've moved through this whole COVID crisis and all the restrictions that have come along with it. So it's been a progressive decision, but I really have not thought that I would have to make this decision until the last executive order came down. And that was kind of the last straw. We could not survive financially if I didn't take on more responsibility, which meant that I was going to have to make a difficult decision of stepping away from the State House.
So that's specifically the reason why you're stepping away is to run the business, put more time into the business rather than just a political move? Exactly.
We've had to do several rounds of layoffs. We are down to a skeleton crew. We are trying to make ends meet. We've invested in this business personally, more than we ever imagined in order to keep it afloat. And we are running out of options right now. We were really going to have a really good last quarter with our business. It was looking very good. We've been functioning very well for the last 7 months within the bounds of the restrictions, but also putting our own on top of that because we're very concerned about our clients and about our staff and keeping everyone safe. And we have successfully for the last 7 months. So I'm very proud of my team and how innovative they have been. But without this last quarter, without the stability of knowing what's coming down the pike and what's next, it's making it almost impossible for me to pull myself out of this in order to serve in the State House for 3 months.
Have you had any conversations with the governor or his office?
Yes, I've emailed them several times throughout this whole year and experience. I've talked to the lieutenant governor directly and shared my dilemma with her as well. And I've communicated with leadership as well.
What type of reaction have you gotten? What type of feedback?
That mostly they've been very understanding. I think a little bit shocked that we have been so devastated by this, but at the same time, they understand and are very saddened by this whole situation. But that's about it.
So what should he have done in your opinion?
Well, I don't have all the answers, but I will tell you that I don't think the businesses are the problem. I really truly believe that after seeing data and after, trying to follow all this and getting kind of like, up to the minute updates about it, I really feel like this is a community spread that's happening. So I understand some of the protocols. I understand some of the restrictions. I definitely, would see that as based on data, something that a decision he would have to make. But at the same time, I truly don't believe the businesses are the cause of the problem. And so there's some arbitrary numbers in the executive order that I feel should not have been included. I think there should have been a percentage of capacity consideration, which happened in stage 4, stage 3, and that really gave us a lot more stability and something to really work with.
Should the legislature, in your opinion, overturn the governor's order?
I think he has extended it too far. I think he has extended this power too far. And I think the legislator should have been brought in earlier than this. I advocated for that as well, and just felt like he needed a little bit more input from the elected body that was supposed to be helping to make these decisions. And so, yeah, I think they should have been brought in a lot sooner than this. And I think they should step in now.
One more question before I let you go. And I know you're pretty busy. You're about to get out the door. And I appreciate you taking some time. Have you had any feedback from any constituents or people in the community in regards to your decision to step away?
Yes, I've had a lot of responses to my decision just today, and they've been very supportive, very saddened by it, but totally understanding because they themselves are going through the same things. So it's been very, very kind words and very supportive.
Representative, thank you very much for taking some time. Happy holidays.
Thank you. You too.
Take care. Bye-bye.
And we reached out to the Indiana Republican Party Chair, Kyle Hupfer, about the resignation. He sent us this following statement. Just as small businesses across the state are facing challenges, I'm sorry to hear about the challenges COVID-19 has placed on Representative Stutzman's family's business, but I'm equally sorry to see her wrongly place blame on the governor and health officials from across the state who are working hard daily to protect Hoosiers' lives and livelihoods. I wish Representative Stutzman and her family the best, and we'll share more details when a caucus is set. All right, coming up, Indiana cities and towns joining forces for one message in the fight against the coronavirus. We talked to the mayor of Fishers about why now is the time to cross city borders in the pandemic. Welcome back to All Indiana Politics on this Sunday as we continue to talk politics and the coronavirus. A group of leading central Indiana mayors coming together to make a joint plea to get people to take the coronavirus seriously. The letter signed by the mayors or leaders of 12 cities and towns saying they are all inextricably connected by a common enemy. All 12 also call on everyone to wear a mask, maintain 6 feet distance, and be smart if you travel or have people in your home. One of the 12 who signed the letter, Fishers Mayor Scott Fadness, and he's with our Brooke Martin.
All right, let's welcome in Fishers Mayor Scott Fadness. Now, Mayor Fadness, thanks so much for your time. I want to talk about this regional approach from mayors. Why issue a statement as a group of regional mayors?
Well, we live in a metropolitan region, and as we all know, this virus doesn't respect arbitrary political boundaries. And so although we don't necessarily have governing structures that would allow us to act as one region, we do have the ability to speak as one region. I think that's why it was so important for all of us to come together and offer a joint message.
And what is that message exactly? What do residents expect to hear with a regional approach?
I think first and foremost, the severity of the current situation was important to impress upon people. I know everyone's fatigued by this discussion around COVID, but the numbers across the entire central Indiana region are going up and going up significantly. This is distinctly different than what we experienced in the spring. And so first and foremost, we wanted to really emphasize that we're in a different chapter and a much more difficult chapter in some ways around COVID. And then, the fundamentals are still there, the social distancing, washing hands, face masks, and then frankly, the timeliness of the holiday season, making sure that people are being thoughtful as they consider traveling here in the next couple of weeks.
I want to talk about traveling in just a minute, but I want to ask first about the state's approach. We're talking county by county as opposed to statewide restrictions. In your opinion, does that help or hurt individual efforts in individual cities?
Well, it depends on which county or city you're in. If your numbers are not increasing, if you haven't seen significant increases, I can understand why you would not want to be clumped with the same restrictions as others. I think one of the things that we're responsible as local leaders is to look at the current situation on the ground and make tough decisions. I think the governor's given us the authority and the flexibility to do that. My health department passed additional restrictions recently, even though the governor set a baseline of X. We went above and beyond that because of the numbers that we are seeing. I think the real question is, how many are going to be willing to do that when it's appropriate? But I still have faith in local leadership and their ability to get that done.
Well, you talked about tough decisions. Is it possible that I'll just let you speak for yourself, not other mayors, but is it possible that there may be a shutdown this winter because of the virus if numbers continue to trend upward?
Well, I've been asked that a number of times, and I try not to speculate on that. But what I would say is I think any elected official would be irresponsible to take any of the tools available to them off the table when not knowing what the outcome of this particular increase is. So I'm not here to say it would be the last thing that I would ever want to do, but in no way would I just arbitrarily take that off the table without, knowing what the outcome of this pandemic or the spread is going to be this winter.
You mentioned holiday travel. Are you worried about people traveling for the holidays, making the pandemic worse here in central Indiana?
I am. Yeah, I am. Absolutely. I think we've got numbers increasing at a significant rate. And we can prove that, science and data that shows we're on a significant increase. And I don't think it takes an epidemiologist or a public health expert to understand what it could mean if 30 or 40% of households decide to drive somewhere and then spend the next 24 to 48 hours in intimate settings with others, probably not wearing masks, probably not socially distanced, because that's not what we do when we're with our families and our loved ones, and then going back to where you came from and going back to daily life. That has the potential to see significant spread. And look, I respect and empathize with everyone who says, you're not going to mess with my family traditions, but there will be, unfortunately, I think, side effects or consequences of that action. And we got to be prepared to deal with that.
When you talk about wearing masks, that topic has obviously maybe been the most controversial issue in this pandemic. How do you convince people that wearing or not wearing masks isn't about making a political statement?
Very difficult. I mean, I've been doing this for a while now, and I've never seen people so polarized one way or another on this particular issue. All we can do at a local level, I think, is set the tone. So local elected officials need to, I at least hope, emphasize the importance of personal responsibility to the greater good, and that these actions are not trying to impinge on your civil liberties, but protect the safety and well-being of our neighbors, our loved ones, and others. And we just have to keep reiterating that, and frankly, not get derailed by the fringes on both sides of this conversation. I tell you, every time we get into this discussion or we contemplate public health policy here at the City of Fishers, I'll get an email from someone on the left that believes that we're not doing enough and we should close everything down immediately. I get an email on the right saying that I'm impinging on their civil liberties. And so if you chase those opinions, I think you're doing a disservice to trying to keep your community on track. And so you just follow the data, follow the experts, balance out with what's best for the economy and public policy and public health, and try to do your best.
Well, speaking of closures and shutdowns, obviously economic damage is a main priority for businesses. How do cities like Fishers, Westfield, Greenwood, how do you work together to recover from the economic damage of the coronavirus?
Well, that's $1 million question, what we're going to look like after the pandemic has come and gone, and what opportunities we can seize from what seems to be a chaotic landscape. I think we're already starting to see some of those opportunities, and we need to be very, very aggressive and very, very intentional about them. For instance, recently Fishers landed a large pharmaceutical manufacturing business to come to our city with a lot of great paying jobs. I think there's a real opportunity for Central Indiana if we work together collectively and go out aggressively and try to attract the pharmaceutical and life science industry in terms of manufacturing and capacity building. I think there's a real opportunity, to be frank with you, here in Central Indiana, but we're going to have to work collectively together on that. And that's yet to be seen, but I'm optimistic that we're going to be able to do that.
All right, Fishers Mayor Scott Fadness, thanks so much for your time, Mayor Fadness.
Absolutely, thank you.
Coming up, the federal government now considers him President-elect Joe Biden. Our political analysts talk about the transition and the new selections for the Biden administration. That's next on All Indiana Politics. Welcome back to All Indiana Politics as we welcome in Democrat Brian Gaddy and Republican April Gregory. Good to see you both. And we want to start with Representative Christy Stutzman's announcement. And April, I'll go to you first in this one. Is there any internal feud among Republicans about virus restrictions and the governor's actions?
Well, of course there is. And I think we saw that play out a little bit in the gubernatorial race just recently. But there is, and it's just unfortunate that the effects of COVID on our population, on working people, on business owners, people who are healthy otherwise. And remember, this is a pandemic with a virus with a 99.98% survival rate for most of us. So these people are trying to pay their employees, they're trying to pay their bills, they're trying to make sure there's food on the table. And the fact that Christy Stutzman is in a place where we would think she'd be able to affect legislation or help for business owners, and she feels like she can't even do that, and she needs to resign because she can be better served serving her family as opposed to making an effect in the legislature is very unfortunate. And I imagine this was a very difficult decision for her, but she ultimately has to do what's best for her family.
Brian, your thoughts?
Well, the coronavirus is affecting all of our lives in a very negative way. Economically, obviously, from a physical well-being standpoint. What's so tragic is that it's just been politicized, whether it's masks, whether it's just the effects of the virus. There's just too much, in my opinion, too much political sniping around these issues. And it's just, without a doubt, it's definitely having a negative impact on our economy. But first and foremost has to be the well-being of Hoosiers and Americans. That has to be the paramount concern of lawmakers, both here in the great state of Indiana and throughout the United States of America. We have to be
Brian, I want to jump in here real quick because we have a lot to get to. This week, we've seen the formal transition begin for President-elect Biden. You saw his cabinet picks announced. Your reactions to the choices, and will it be enough to make progressives happy?
Well, I'm very pleased with his choices. These are people that are very well skilled in the ways of Washington. They're very skilled with understanding how foreign policy should be presented throughout the world for the benefit of us as Americans and Hoosiers. Progressives, will they be happy? I'm sure they will. I mean, there's scuttlebutt that many progressives want Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders in the cabinet, but that's not going to happen because Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders are both senators, and the balance of power in the Senate is razor thin close. Yeah. So we can't have Elizabeth and Bernie and in President-elect Biden's cabinet, even though I'm sure a lot of progressives will want them there.
April, will the Senate actually approve any of them, or would you rather, as the Republican on the panel, see them blocked from confirmation?
No, none of these people are so liberal or progressive that they are going to be pleasing to that end of the Democratic Party. Actually, in fact, interesting thing about almost all the cabinet picks we've seen so far, they're all former lobbyists. His chief of staff, Secretary of State, DHS, DNI, NSA, these are all lobbyists. And so we're coming back to politics as usual in D.C. And if you recall, that is why we got Trump in the first place. So,
April, that begs the question, would you recommend Senators Braun and Young vote against the picks?
No, it is what it is. It's going to happen. I mean, the Republican Party is not going to get people in there who they want to be in there. So it's just, you just have to vote for them.
One last question here, Brian, and we only have about 30 seconds left for the answer on this one. You think the transition is going to go smoothly?
Well, so far from President Trump, he hasn't been acting very cooperative with his legal challenges and still denying the fact that he lost and lost convincingly. It's just the fact that President-elect Biden has conducted himself in a very statesmanlike way throughout this process, but unfortunately, President Trump has not reciprocated in the same way that he should behave, like all other presidents that have lost elections or
Panel,
their
good to
term.
see you both. Thank you very much for your time. April, Brian, have a good one. You're watching All Indiana Politics on Wish TV and our statewide news network. We'll be right back. Thank you for joining us for All Indiana Politics on this Sunday morning. Hope you had a good Thanksgiving. You can see our full interviews from today online at wishtv.com. They're also on our Wish TV Facebook page, and we'll be back here next Sunday morning at 9:30. Have a great rest of your weekend.